Hi, everyone. Welcome to Zen and Tech, our weekly podcast focused on centering your inner geek and using technology to help deal with the stresses of your connected life. I'm Rene, and your host for the show is Georgia. Before we begin, I just want to remind you that while Georgia is a therapist, she's not your therapist. Everything said or implied in this episode is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and shouldn't be taken in any way as a replacement for personal, professional care. Hit the music! There you go, Georgia. Introed.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm tired, but good.
Yeah, me too. It's been a while. We had to do it though. We were both exhausted. We've both been full of iPad hysteria mania, but we couldn't miss another week. That
we could not do.
So
but have a new iPad. All is good. I've been sleeping. Slightly sick. I might sneeze. I apologize.
Sleeping? What is that? I've heard. Like, is that one of those made up words like weekend and vacation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what are we up for today?
Well, today we're going to talk about caretaking.
Ooh.
It's a bad thing. Yeah, it's a bad thing.
No, just to be careful, we're not talking about people whose job is to like a caretaker at a school or something. We're talking about, what are we talking about?
What we're talking about are people that overdo it, overdraw themselves, help out. They're fabulous, loving people, but that often are doing way too much.
So it's not your job. Your nature is to just take care of everyone around you and try and do everything for everyone around you and be there and anticipate their needs before they even express them, and just generally be a hyper vigilant sort of a caretaking personality.
Right, which is really nice. Being a caretaker is actually really nice. On the outside, they're the people that when you get hurt, they'll be the first ones there. If you are coughing, they'll, without even asking, they'll give you a candy. In a lot of ways, it's a wonderful, beautiful thing.
It's like your mom.
Yeah, it's like being a mom to people that are not your children. Trying to help out other people. If someone has an issue, they'll be discussing it with them. But after a while, you're just putting more and more onto your plate because people will take advantage of you for being a caretaker. And then you'll feel resentment and martyrdom and then manipulation, and it will burn you out.
And is it also fair to say that you'll begin to infantilize the people around you, so they start to require the care that you've been giving them and not just enjoy it?
They not only require it, but you want them to need you because you're worried that they might not stick around if you stop doing this. So it's the people that are always paying for everyone else's meal, or, drinks out are on me, or, if you need something, they're there at 3:00 in the morning to move your furniture on a whim. It can become too much, and you'll end up feeling animosity, and being used. And it's also often a sign of low self-esteem because you're doing this outside of the fact that you're worried that people might not like you or stick around if you don't do all of these extraneous extra things.
I think that's an important point. You're not always doing it because you want to. You're doing it because you fear sometimes the emotional consequences of not doing it.
Right. And you kind of have to. You're getting your self-esteem from other people saying, wow, thank you so much. You're so awesome.
So are there sort of patterns that because maybe some people, this is just the way they act. Like maybe they were raised this way, or it was a role that they took over in their family because there was a deficit, of that kind of attention. Are there signs you could look for, like almost like you might be a caretaker if?
Yeah, I'm going to go through some characteristics of caretaking, and we'll see. You can answer these questions and find out, yes, I'm a caretaker, or no, I'm not. If you answer yes to more than no to these questions, then you're a caretaker and it needs to be dealt with. You don't have to answer to all of them yes. Oh God, hopefully you don't.
Is it like Jeff Foxworthy? You might be a caretaker if.
You might be a caretaker if.
Yeah.
But it's just an unhealthy way of behaving. It makes others not learn responsibility, not learn, consequences to their actions.
It's bad for you and it's bad for them. It's a no-win.
All the way around.
It's a bag of hurt.
Okay, so if you might be a caretaker, if you are saying yes, when in your head you're thinking, no, God, no. But you're saying, do you want to go and, listen to that speech? And you're like, yeah. And you're thinking, that would be the worst thing in the world to do. That's caretaking. If you think and feel responsible for other people, if you feel anxious, guilty, feel pity when other people have a problem.
Is that like, oh, sorry, is that like over empathizing? Is that a similar thing?
Yes. If someone else has an issue and you're busy, it's someone else's problem.
And you're caring about it more than them.
At night, and it's not even your problem,
Yeah.
and you're thinking about it, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's
big, giant neon warning sign.
Right.
Flashing.
If you anticipate other people's needs, so they don't even ask for it, and you're, thinking ahead of that. If you find it easier to express anger and injustice that have happened to other people, but to yourself, you're like, that doesn't really matter, but this happened to this person, and that was really, really bad. If you overcommit yourself, if you feel safest when you're giving to others and you have a hard time accepting gifts in return, if you have a hard time dealing with compliments or praise, if you think that you're not quite good enough, if you take things very, very personally.
I'm offended that you said that.
If you worry about little things, if you're always thinking about how you can do something for someone else, if you feel, they often overspend money, they often feel that their job is to help others.
This is almost like the opposite of the put yourself first list that you gave us a few shows ago.
It really is. It's very, if you're last on your list, if you're last on your totem pole, odds are you're also a caretaker.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because JJJ says that, no type A personalities are in that category. Yeah, this is seriously type A also.
Now, why is that? That's kind of counterintuitive. Usually you think a type A person is very me. So how would a type A be, everyone but me?
Oh, there's a lot of type A people that are caretakers because they're not only they're the people that everyone comes to for a problem. They're the ones that do things so well, that are so perfectionistic that they can, they feel that they're the best to handle that situation.
They become like a champion.
Answers. And they're the rescuers. They're the protectors. They're the ones that will do something when no one else will. And that's what they'll say. They'll say, but no one else would come to help them if I don't.
So they get to be a superhero, and that feeds their ego.
Yeah, and it feels good.
Yeah.
And it feels good. And being that, being a leader and feeling that as that's your cape, is often doing stuff that no one else will do, listening to people when no one else will listen. Fixing things, well, no one else will want to fix it. So, and that feels really good.
You feel better than superior too. I mean, there's a fairly, it didn't make sense when you first said it, but now it's a fairly easy sort of it's like kind of, what are you getting out of it? It's kind of easy to see then.
Yes. And it feels good in a lot of ways. People need you.
Yep.
And you're there for them. But it becomes too much. It becomes too much, and you become drained, stressed, animosity. You're like, well, I did all of this for them, and I'm sick and no one does anything for me.
Yeah.
That's definitely caretaking as well. So
now hold on, there's a thing that's also confusing for me. So how do you know when, because you've spoken before about the pendulum, that things swing, sometimes more than they should. How do you know when you're, and I apologize for my language, but how do you know when you're caretaking or just being like a decent person, or not caretaking and just being a dick? I mean, how do you, sometimes they may not be taking care of you because they're a dick and they're not taking care of you, or sometimes you're taking care of them just because they happen to, how do you know when it's too much?
That's a really good point. And that's something that people often say is that, well, I'm just, this is just me caring for my family. This is me,
It's what TV tells me to do.
Right. Well, the first thing is that if you're not being true to yourself, then that's the first sign. If you're thinking, God, my energy level is at 0, I'm tired, I'm overwrought, and then my mom calls to say, listen, can you please pick up some milk? I'm out of milk. And it's not something that you would have to do. That's one sign, is that, you don't wait till tomorrow. You're going out now, even though you're exhausted and you could really use a nap. Listening to yourself, caring for yourself, should come first to that.
Yeah.
If you're having an inability to say no to things, that's a huge sign. Or even if usually you want to say, no, and you don't. If, oh, this is a good one. This one I love. If there's a problem in the house and you're the one that jumps up from the couch and fixes it and no one else does, then you're a caretaker.
Consistently, right? It's not like you're taking turns fixing things. If you're always the one doing it.
Right. If you're always the one fixing it. And if you feel a need to. Plus, you're probably at a certain degree angry.
Yeah, well, I guess because like you're doing something and you feel like there should be, like we're kind of programmed for an equal and opposite reaction. And you spoke about this a long time ago. You have expectations and you start to believe that your expectations are other people's obligations.
Right. And they're not. You have to live your own life. You have to be true to yourself. This does not mean be selfish and heartless. And
don't be a dick, just be true to yourself.
And the someone brought up in the chat room about, well, listen, you have to buy, your mom asks you to buy milk. Now I'm talking about, like, I don't live at home with my mom. So if you're living at home and you're out, then yes, you should buy milk. And not only that, you're right, you are obligated to do that. You live in this household. But if I'm at home and I've come back from a long day at work and, my parents are like, listen, I don't have any milk right now, and they don't need milk to survive. If milk is the only thing that they eat and they will die from it, great. If not, they could wait until tomorrow or, find someone else to do it. Or
if they were perfectly capable of getting it on their own, they're just used to asking you because you always do it.
Yes, exactly. That would be over caretaking and exceptionally unhealthy. If you're last on your list, if you're worried that people won't like you after, they're not going to like me, if that's one of your issues, that's huge.
Now, it also sounds like it does them a disservice because you're almost like infantilizing them. You're not teaching them to be personally responsible, to have empathy, to do their part. Because any relationship is supposed to be two-sided, right? You're not letting them you're kind of taking something away from them.
You're not teaching them responsibility. You're not teaching them that they can do it. And you're also saying to them, I don't trust you and I don't believe in you because I don't think you can. Or if you're like, someone makes the bed, you're redoing it for them. Well, what's that teaching? That you didn't do a good enough job. And if you are, say, in a relationship, so, someone's an alcoholic, and so you're, making sure that they don't get caught and that they don't, miss their job, and you're waking them up and you're dealing with other things, you're actually being the person that is responsible for them. And they're like, well, they don't have to learn that skill because you're doing it for them. Like if I did not have to wake up to get to work on time, if someone else would suddenly magically, I would just appear at work, I wouldn't.
If you had no consequence, you have no incentive.
And yes, and children and teenagers will not actually spontaneously decide to start cleaning the house. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, and then you kind of cripple that. Like you're crippling these people because not everyone's going to be a caretaker for them. You've given them false expectations.
Right. And someone else is saying that when they lived in their parents' house, that it was, their way or the highway. Well, yes, when you live in someone else's house, you follow their rules. It's their house. But when you're out on your own, you also have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. And you need to come first.
You made a great analogy. I forget if it was the taking care of yourself episode or a subsequent one about you having like a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat energy bar and it gets knocked down and not knocked down. And if it gets too low, that's it. I mean, there's no reserve beyond that.
Yeah, we often type A personalities will use up way too much of our energy. We'll actually go from like 100% to 0. If we have an extra 30%, we're like, ooh, I can do, X, Y, and Z to use up this energy level at the end of the day. That's not okay. You want to keep some sort of your own energy level at the end of the day for you so that you can heal. And also in case of an emergency, if you're completely spent and then suddenly, your special someone's car breaks down and you have to go and pick them up and you're already absolutely cooked, you're not going to be any good to them. And you're not going to be any good to your household because you're going to be angry. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be spiteful. Caretakers are often passive aggressive, so you won't be directly angry because you don't want anyone not to like you. But it'll come out in passive aggressive little snippy remarks or hurtful comments like, what, the shoes didn't move themselves, did they?
Yeah.
Which isn't good either.
Now, is it Because we're lucky to live in a technologically.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
We're lucky to live in a technologically adept culture. Can you shift some of your caretaking? Like, I guess once you make the realization that you're a caretaker and you want to take steps. Actually, maybe I should ask you that first. Once you realize you're a caretaker, how do you start breaking that pattern?
There's steps that you can take. The first one is to start to detach yourself. So caretakers are often really kind of clingy to the people that are around them. And the first step is just kind of to like, just take a step back and look and see. So I always say my statement is pause. Just pause. Someone's freaking out for some reason and you would usually like feel the need to jump up. Just wait. I say it's like getting caught in other people's whirlwinds. So what happens is that someone else is upset for some reason, whatever it so may be. And the first thing you do is you get up and so there's a whirlwind happening. You get sucked up and now there's both of you in a whirlwind trying to fix it. The first thing to do is just pause and wait and allow other people to take care of their own problems. That does not mean be cold and heartless. And if they ask for help, not to help them. But it does mean that you do not have to give unsolicited help, constantly be there and be sucked into other people's problems also. Or even people that are massive caretakers will solicit issues. So what happened with that thing and what can I do and call me anytime. Well, some people will make use of that and you won't be too thrilled about it.
Yeah. So it's a step-by-step thing. You identify the problem and then you start extricating. But I'm thinking that if people are used to you taking care of them and then you stop, that's going to be kind of jarring with them. Is there a way, like, for example, if I've been taking care of all my mom's appointments or all my girlfriend's appointments or something, can I get her like a smartphone that has appointments built in? And can I shift some of the burden to technology to kind of, or teach her how to fish so I don't have to fish for her every day?
I love that. I think that that's a great way that the iPad or your tablet or your phone can work out. And you might choose, if your family member is not exceptionally techy, to set up reminders for them. Or, as you said, teach them to fish. Teach them how to set up reminders on the device that they have so that they can use that instead of you calling them or you reminding them to do something that can do it. The same thing, I love the fact that my calendar has everyone's birthday that I could possibly conceive in that. And that helps me. Having a day before the reminder, I make sure to call and people are like, wow, I can't believe you remembered my child's birthday. I didn't really. I get a pop-up on my phone. But that makes my life much easier and I can just relax.
Mom, I can't go get you milk anymore, but you can touch this button and ask this little person named Siri where the closest milk store is. And then have it call you a taxi.
And then have it call you a taxi. Right. Know that you don't actually have to do everything for someone else. You can find other ways around it. And people are like, but I'll feel guilty if my mom takes, a taxi or if she has to call her friend to deal with that. Especially as people age, we often try to take the responsibilities away from them. But then they don't have anything to do throughout their day. And that's one of the things that keeps people healthy. Why sometimes people, when they go into convalescent homes, deteriorate exceptionally fast, because they don't have to cook. They don't have to think about going to the washroom. They don't have to deal with other things that are keeping their minds active. So You're actually doing them a favor. The same thing with children.
It atrophies, right? Like if you stapled them to a chair, they wouldn't be able to walk and they'd lose leg muscle. If you do everything for them, they lose brain muscle.
You don't use it, you lose it. And the same thing with social situations. Then they're not maybe going to the mall and talking to the person that they go there, or, going to the donut shop and having their morning coffee and chatting with the people that are around. It's really important for other people. And the same thing with learning responsibilities and consequences. If you're the busy, making sure that your child doesn't get in trouble for not doing his homework because you're bringing his homework to him when he forgot it, then how are they going to learn that there's a consequence to that action?
So you're harming yourself, you're harming others.
Right. And again, does not mean to leave them if they've fallen down or they need something, but try as much as you can to facilitate so that they can learn and feel proud and feel responsible of themselves.
JJ Wicks in the chat room is saying he uses Siri and the Cards app to remind him of birthdays and automatically send a card, and he's like the hero of the family.
Ooh. Oh, that is a really good tip. I like that. The Card app.
I
And
mean,
does it send the cards for you, or do you have, like, can I write them all at one stage?
yeah, it's just an app. You fill it in, it pays from your iTunes account, and it goes.
I like that. I like that, but I have to manually actually write it in each time, right?
Well, I mean, you don't want Aunt Beirut to get Uncle Owen's card. You know, you've got to put her name on
set it up preset one day, do everyone's cards.
I
and
keep
have
getting the same card every year from Georgia. It's very odd.
Send July 5th this card for this year, and then just do it once. Because if it can do that, I'm all set to go.
And we should point out, like, you know, I've been using Siri, but I mean, you have voice activated stuff on every platform. You have apps on every platform. You can just find the equivalent, like Tell Me on Windows Phone or the Android Assistant. I mean, this stuff is becoming more and more mainstream and more ubiquitous.
Right. People that are caretakers are also massive controllers. They have a need to control the things around them. And control is really just an illusion. We can't control anything but ourselves. And it wraps us up. We'll often try to control things that are uncontrollable. It's a waste of time, and it's an illusion. It will cause us an exceptional amount of stress. So you have to let go of it.
Yeah.
You have to trust that other people will be able to take care of things. And if not, they'll talk to you about it. Doesn't mean you have to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fixing it is kind of a caretaking thing, and also a guy thing. Like, a girl will tell some guy their problem. That's what I always get, is people come up to me and say, you know, I just wanted him to listen, and he's busy trying to say what I did wrong and why I'm in this problem in the first place, which makes people angry because it means that they're to blame.
Penny tells you that her ex-boyfriend has her TV and you come back with no pants. I mean, it just doesn't help anybody.
Okay.
That was a Big Bang reference. I hope the geeks in the audience got it.
Also, caretakers are usually not great at self-care. So take a look at our self-care episode and start to care for yourselves, please.
Yeah. And we'll put that in the show notes so you have an easy reference for it.
Right. Take care of what you are doing. Enjoy yourself. You deserve time off. If you're tired, sleep. If you're hungry, eat. As the same thing that I've said before, is that when the gas masks, when the air masks come down in a plane, they say put it over yourself and then over your children afterwards. Because if you die, asphyxiate, no one's going to be there to help your children out of the plane.
Yeah, so. No, absolutely. And I mean, it sounds like it just sounds, a lot of stuff sounds obvious, but we just, you don't see it. Like, it's just, it becomes the way things are, and you get stuck in cycles and patterns, and it's a vicious cycle. And by stepping away, by detaching, you can start to recognize what it is.
What I actually say to people is say no to everything for a week. Just say no.
I like that.
To everything. Everything that someone says, say no. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to keep with that. If someone's going to a movie you really want to go, first say no, and then wait. And then after 5 minutes, then change your mind. And you can say, well, actually, you know what? I think I would like to go to that movie. But if you, and that teaches you that people won't abandon you and they'll accept that. Now, the second part to that, if you can kind of do that, is say no and don't give a reason at all. Don't give a reason for what you're doing. And I have a really great answer to this one that I use all the time. And so someone will say, you know what? Do you want to come to that conference with me? And I'll say, no, I don't. And they'll say, what do you mean? Why don't you want to come? Now when they say why, people that are caretakers, this freaks us out. Okay, yeah. We have to find this really great reason. You
start making up because the thing is coming and
right, I don't really want to. And then the person that's wanting you to go will have a reason. Well, you know what? We'll hire a sitter for that. Yeah. And we'll do this so that you can go.
It becomes a discussion, not an answer.
Yeah, let's play it out actually, Rene. Like, you asked me to go somewhere. Go ahead.
Georgia, will you come with me to Tashi Station to get the power regulators?
No.
Well, why not?
I just don't do that.
What do you mean you don't do that?
I just don't do that.
You don't go to Tashi Station, or you don't get power regulators?
Both.
Like,
now, I just don't do that answer, it's not really an answer. There's no actual excuse to it, but people seem to be like, oh, okay. Like, they accept that as a reason.
It's very, it was very off-putting. I didn't know how to handle that.
I love it. I love it. So people will be like, do you want to, come to this wedding with me? And I'll be like, I'll go to the party after, but I won't go to the ceremony. They'll be like, why? I'll be like, I just don't do that.
Oh.
And they'll be like, really? I'll be like, yeah,
And don't explain,
like,
right? Don't say I don't do that because if you say the because, they can argue again. But if you say I just don't do that, there's no rational discourse going on.
There is no way that, like, see, what's happening is why they say why is, like, you'll say, well, because, I'm having to fix my chairs on that day. And then they'll be like, well, I'll help you fix your chairs on Thursday. And then you're like, oh, now you're screwed. You're kind of stuck in the loop of having to now, one is they're coming over to fix the chairs that probably don't need to be fixed. It's probably an excuse you made up. But when I say I just don't do that, they're kind of stuck without having to do anything else. So go steal that as your reason when it's not really a reason.
I love it. That's tip of the day right there. Tip of the day.
I love it. It's my favorite thing. And it feels good saying that every time I get to say I just don't do that, because there's a whole bunch of things that I just don't do. Like any conference. I hate ceremonies. So
homie, don't play that. They're saying in the chat room. Homie, don't play that.
Yeah. I would say that, but
they're dating themselves by admitting to having watched Living Color, but they're saying it.
It's a lot of fun to get to use, and it works out exceptionally well. People accept that as an answer. They're like, oh, okay.
Well, they don't know how to deal with it. I mean, it's completely disarming.
Do that.
Yeah.
They'll use it for me. Someone will say, you know what? Ask Georgia if she wants to go to that conference. And someone else will say, no, she just doesn't do that. I'll be like, awesome.
I mean, it's so off-putting that you would just never ask that person again. I mean, it's just like, I
don't think that people find it offensive. They don't even take it personally, which is nice because
it's not about that. You're not making it about them.
It's not that I don't want to hang out with you. I just don't do
that activity.
X, Y, or Z.
Brilliant. Frame it.
There we go.
Georgia, on that note, we cannot possibly exceed that tonight. I'm going to draw a line in the sand right there and say, how can we find out more about you?
You can find me on Twitter.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Is that the homework, saying no to everything? I just want to make that clear to everybody.
If you can, if you're a caretaker, yes, say no to everything.
Okay, I'm not doing it.
This.
Yeah, too late. So say no to everything, and if people ask you, just say, I don't do that.
Yeah,
simple homework.
And please, if you get to use that line, send me a tweet about it, because that'll crack me up. I want to know what someone asked you and you got to say I just don't do that.
You have your own forum now. If you go to forums.imore.com, there is a Zen and Tech forum. They can go in there and actually tell us what happened with the story.
Yes, and send me a tweet to say that you sent something in the forum. I'll take a check.
Awesome. So now, where can we find out more about you?
It'll crack me up.
Sweet.
Will you take care of my cat?
No.
Sorry, just don't do that.
I don't do cats.
Will you water my plants? Sorry.
I don't do plants. Just be Samuel Jackson.
A video of it happening. That would be awesome. Rene, how do we find you?
No, I want to find out about you first. I'm sorry, I was very rude. I interrupted you.
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at GeorgiaTIPB. You can also find me on the website www.zenandtech.tv.
Awesome. And you can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find me at the same website. And you can find all of us at Zen and Tech on Twitter or at mobilenations.com/shows. Georgia, I want to thank you very much. You were awesome. And I want to thank our chat room. They were on fire tonight. They were great. I love coming to the live. If you've never come to live chat, please do, because it's so much fun and makes the show experience good for us. Come for us, not even for you. I don't care if you don't like coming live to the chat. Please come anyways, because it's enjoyable for us. Now, if they were smart, they'd say, I just don't do that in the chat room right now. But I don't know if they're... Oh, that would be rough. I'd be hurt, but... You'd accept it. I'd accept it, because what can you say to that? If you haven't already, please go to iTunes. Please subscribe to the show. Please leave a rating. It encourages iTunes to feature us so more people can find out about us. And please tell your friend about this. Some people keep telling us they don't want to share the show because they don't want people to know that they're stressed or anxious. Your friends are stressed and anxious too. You will get major brownie points, major kudos. They will owe you one for introducing them to the show. So your additional homework this week is to find 1 or 2 people and surreptitiously slip them the link to this show. They'll thank you for it. Trust me. Yes, and so will we, because I really do this. And so do you, because I love it. So the more people we can reach means a lot to us. All right, help one person, it's worth it. Absolutely. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.